Hi, how you doing? And welcome back to DeeLee Plus. My name is Damian Lee, and today I brought you guys some more posts from r/BestOfRedditorUpdates. As always, I'll go through the post in its entirety before giving my take, and if any of these stories resonate with you all, I encourage you to sound off in the comments. With that out of the way, strap in, and I hope you enjoy. Our first story was shared to r/relationship advice on May 19th, 2019 by Tough Volcano, and then posted to Best of Redditor Updates, October 11th, 2025 by Direct Caterpillar 77. Girlfriend and I, 26M/F, got into a huge fight over a keyboard, thinking about ending things based on her behavior. So my girlfriend and I, both 26, got in a fight about this 2 nights ago, and she's making it seem like I'm being an asshole. We've been dating for 4.5 months. My girlfriend has a 2013 Lenovo laptop that has seen better days. As it stands right now, among some other issues, her keyboard totally doesn't work. Because of this, she always uses a small Bluetooth keyboard with her laptop. She had texted me the next morning saying that her wireless keyboard had stopped working as well. We had already planned for me to stay the night at her place after I got off work, so I offered to stop by my place on the way to grab her a keyboard as I have a few extras. When I got to her place, she was eagerly awaiting her keyboard, which makes sense as she wasn't able to use her computer for most of the day. But when I handed her the keyboard, she started getting really quiet and pouty. A bit later, when I asked her what was wrong, she said she thought I'd be bringing her something nicer, like the keyboard I have at my desk. The thing is, I have a really nice keyboard at my desk. I'm a programmer, and I love this keyboard so much that I also bring it to work with me. I even have specific macro profiles for it that definitely improve my workflow. For context, I had an extra Amazon Basics keyboard, $15, lying around, still brand new in the box. My personal keyboard, which I've had for years, is some variant of the Razer Black Widow, $120. Anyway, she was apparently expecting me to be selfless and let her use my nice keyboard while I used the Amazon keyboard. She was upset that I didn't value her enough to lend her my nice possessions and left her with the cheap $10 keyboard. Her words. She said if the situation was reversed, she'd lend me the nice keyboard. I explained to her that my keyboard is specifically set up for work, and because I'm so used to it, it would hinder my ability to do work if I didn't have it. We continued to argue about it, and things really came to a head when she boldly claimed that if I wasn't willing to lend her my nice keyboard, that I should have bought her a nice new keyboard if I really cared about her. This is when I got really mad. I told her she was acting like an entitled, spoiled child, and that she should have been grateful that I went out of my way in the first place to grab her the Amazon keyboard. She started crying and asked me to go home. I left, but I still gave her the Amazon keyboard to use. I was far more upset at the principle of the situation than the keyboard itself. So now she's calling me an asshole for both not giving her my keyboard and because I called her spoiled. We're gonna meet up tomorrow to talk about this in person because I refuse to continue this silly argument over text. I'm thinking about ending things with her, because I feel like this is her showing me her true colors. TLDR, girlfriend's keyboard broke, I lent her one of my extras, and she got upset that it was a cheap keyboard. I call her spoiled, which infuriated her. Relevant comments. Comfy Mistake says, "You're honestly 100% right. She's acting like a spoiled child. Beggars don't get to be choosers. She wants your nice keyboard? She could buy one for herself. Better yet, she can buck up and save up for a new laptop. I don't blame you at all for feeling angry. I think you should attempt to talk through it before you decide to break up with her, but it's definitely a red flag that she's acting this way." Info Girl says, "I think you got it right when you said she was a spoiled brat. She should have been grateful that you came over with a keyboard. Any kind of keyboard. Maybe she should take her own advice and be a little selfless." I would pose a question to you. If you two are fighting over a keyboard, what will happen when an issue that's a bit more serious comes up? Good luck with your talk. I have a feeling you're gonna need it. LMKBK says, "Never marry someone until you've seen how they act on a really bad day." Edit. She texted me asking to meet up tonight instead of tomorrow, as she's feeling anxious and stressed about the situation. I will give everyone an update later tonight or tomorrow morning. I also wanted to clarify that she's never acted like this before, although, admittedly, we haven't been together for very long. Some of you suggested that maybe I'm not making her feel valued and this situation is a symptom of that. While I think I both show and tell her that she's valued in different ways, this may be something I bring up with her. It of course doesn't forgive her behavior, but it may explain some of it. Cheers. OOP updates on May 20th, 2019, the very next day. We met earlier tonight and sat down to talk. I was somewhat prepared to end things with her, so I suggested we meet at her place so that I could bail if things went south, and they did. Even though I thought I made my post as anonymous as possible, one of my girlfriend's coworkers figured out who the post was about. Girlfriend's age, working HR, which I mentioned in a comment, same computer problems, dating a programmer, etc., and sent it to my girlfriend. The reason she wanted to meet early was because she was furious that I had made the post airing our dirty laundry. In a sense, I guess she was right, because at least one person had figured it out. My girlfriend never used Reddit, so I figured I was safe. There's a strong chance she'll read this one as well. LOL. Anyway, she immediately began berating me, telling me that I made her look bad in the post, and lied about the details of our argument to get people on my side. I asked her to point out any part of it that wasn't true, or where I had lied. Long story short, she couldn't point to a single thing. I definitely raised my voice when I told her that if she looked bad, it's only because of her actions. I told her I only made the post to get some perspective on the matter. The post was 100% accurate and she knew it. She began to tear up and asked me if I was really considering leaving over the keyboard. I asked her if she understood that this wasn't about the keyboard. It was about the way she acted towards me when I was trying to do her a favor. She stayed silent and didn't answer. I asked her what had prompted this outburst and if everything was okay with her. I asked if anything had happened with her friends, parents, or at work that was upsetting her and may have led to this. She got really defensive, asking, "Are you calling me crazy?" And, "Do you think I'm unstable?" I had no idea where she was going with this. I told her I wasn't calling her crazy, but that she had to understand that I was quite confused about how she was acting and that there had to be a reason for it. We talked in circles for a bit and I tried to pry it out of her. I still don't know what caused all of this, because she simply wouldn't tell me. When I realized our conversation was going nowhere, I finally asked her if we were going to have an adult conversation, or if this was the hill she was willing to let the relationship die on. She asked, "What do you want from me?" And I said, "I want an apology." I'm getting tired of typing, so I'll wrap this up quickly. She was absolutely unwilling to apologize. She thought that my betrayal of posting this was far worse than her initial behavior was. We talked for about 5 more minutes before I told her that I don't even care anymore. I told her this whole thing was exhausting as she wasn't willing to help us get to the bottom of this, and that we should just break up. I didn't waste any time making my way to the door. As I was leaving, she asked if I wanted the keyboard back. She didn't ask to be nice. She was definitely trying to get on my nerves. I could tell by the tone of her voice. I told her she could keep it as long as she promised never to call or text me again. And I've been getting tons of not so nice messages from her friends, which finally prompted me to delete my Facebook. She obviously told her friends some false version of the story, which made it seem like I really did leave her over the keyboard. I couldn't care less, as I'll never be seeing any of them again. We only dated for 4 months, so in the end I don't feel terribly heartbroken. Mostly just relief that it's over. But also confusion? Still have no idea why she acted out. TLDR, she wouldn't apologize or tell me what was wrong. After an exhausting conversation, I decided to end it. And to the people who had some unkind words towards me because I use a Razer keyboard, pound sand, dorks, I like what I like. Very short edit. She called earlier today and was very apologetic. My assumption is that she saw this post and read all the comments detailing how it was right for leaving her, among other things. I told her she had her chance to apologize. Top comment. User Oceans of Umbrellas adds, I saw a comment on Reddit a while back that asked why so many relationships fail at approximately the 3-month point. And someone, no, I'm not going to spend 20 plus minutes Googling to give credit to the person, replied that they'd once been told it was because it's really hard for people to continue pretending to be someone they weren't for much longer than 3 months. I think maybe this applies to your situation. You know, I will say I always find the trouble with posts about relationships is that we're only ever getting one side of it. At the same time, though, I do feel like this OP was pretty forthcoming, which makes me more willing to take the story at face value like this is what had happened. So when OP has the conversation with his girlfriend and she's like, "Do you think I'm crazy?" Well, no, that was never what we were talking about. She's taking something that was symptomatic of the larger problem and like, this is what I gotta focus on. This is really what it's all about. No, you're missing the forest for the trees. And maybe because of him posting on Reddit, maybe, you know, her being told that by the friend, she could have used that as like a way to justify her behavior or like have an excuse for it or something. And he turned it right around. He was like, well, it was untrue about what I said. Oh, so you think I'm crazy? And the 3-month thing is also pretty interesting. I know it's not related to the main story, but I guess in a way it is. Their relationship lasted for just over 4 months. So that's around the point where like those neurochemicals in our head, you know, that's when they're like, oh, that's starting to fade away, and you know, you're dropping that like good behavior mask. At least that's like the psychology end of it. I personally feel like it's more like, oh, you know, you're starting to get an understanding of your needs and your differences in how you live your life and your intentions with long-term plans. I feel like those things really start to come around that time, and your personalities can clash if you're not, you know, made for each other in that way. That's how I feel. I don't know about the whole, like, you know, they've dropped their mask and now they are real. I'm sure everyone, like, I'm sure there's a little kernel of it that's true, but I don't know how much of it I would take and be like, that's exactly it, you know? But at least it was only 4.5 months. I'm glad that he didn't sink too much time into this relationship to where it would have hurt to separate. So good for you, OP. Next post. Our next story was shared to r/TrueOffMyChest by a throwaway account on October 13th, 2022, and shared to BestOfRedditorUpdates, November 7th, 2025 by Lucy Aria Rose. My wife and everyone else thinks I got laid off, but really I quit so I could make a go at being a Twitch streamer full time. My wife doesn't follow or know anything about Twitch or video games at all. She doesn't have any knowledge of or connection to the industry I used to work in. She's a paramedic, so she works different shifts and doesn't know I stream at times when she's not home. Her salary is enough to cover our bills, although things will be a bit tighter until I start making money on my stream. I'm not going to tell anyone until I'm bringing in enough money that I can do it full time. I've never been happier and not stressed as I am now. It's easy for me to lock myself in my home office and say I'm networking and job hunting, when I'm really streaming if my wife and or my 3-year-old is home. If she's not working or my daughter's not at daycare, it's harder, but I make it work. I feel a bit guilty for lying, but I've wanted to do this for a long time. No one that I know in real life knows. Obviously posting this with a throwaway. Top comments. So, you're never gonna tell anyone? You're not gonna make money. You're a fucking loser taking advantage of your wife. Grow up and get a job and help take care of your child. Or you can wait till your wife finds out what a deceitful user you are and hopefully leaves you. DevilDog82nd says, this is a fool's game you're playing. Stop lying about it and own it. Akayak says, damn bro, lying to your wife's a shitty thing to do. What if you don't make it and never make money like 90% of the people who try? What are you gonna tell her you've been doing for months and years? Circus Wolf says, if he does end up making it, imagine him telling his wife, hey honey, I've been lying to you for months and years, but it all worked out. Even though you're the only one supporting us for months and we had to go without often. OP updates us November 1st, 2025, over 3 years later. Title, update, my wife and everyone else thinks I got laid off, but really I quit so I can make a go at being a Twitch streamer full time. An update, and my divorce destroyed me and she's dating again now. I know I'll probably get flamed, but I get it. I understand that I'm the one who ruined my life and marriage. My divorce was finalized a year ago. She found out about 6 months after I posted. I understand that I was wrong and that I screwed up. I regret my stupidity so much. She left our flat with our daughter and went to live with her sister and hired a solicitor, and that was it. Don't be stupid like me. We've been divorced for a year and I found out she just started dating again. I'm gutted. I miss her. I miss my daughter because she only lives with me half the time. Whenever I see my wife's sister or other members of her family, they give me the stink eye. I can't believe I've been such a lazy fuck while she was out there busting her ass as a paramedic. I understand why everyone hates me and why they sided with her. I'll know I'll get judged either way, but I'm posting in case anyone understands what I'm going through and being gutted when your ex starts dating again. Top comments. Wasabinski says, I read your original post and the funny thing is that everyone told you this was going to happen, and it did. Black Danish says, the fact that everyone told him that was going to happen and it did happen is so funny to me. Like, bro, even a child would have seen this coming from miles away. Beginning Bed 9364 says, how's the streaming career? Guardian Alien says, who would have guessed it's not that easy? Destructicus Dawn says, what grown man with a family does something like this? SP Kincaid 13 says, I'm a police officer and went to an apartment to check on some kids once. 2 kids, 6 and 8, both nonverbal, both homeschooled by dad. They lived in a low-income housing in a neighborhood where you regularly hear gunshots. They had the bare minimum in the apartment, except of course for dad's streaming setup. He had a better gaming PC than me, and I thought I spent too much on mine with no kids. He was neglecting homeschool to focus on his streaming career. Absolutely delusional. CJ Straight says, you could have kept your job and did streams at night, you idiot. No Telesum says, if you haven't already, it's likely past time to speak to a therapist about how you sabotaged your job and marriage to find out what happened and how to avoid doing something like this again. Just Julia 2189 says, I usually get annoyed by the excessive recommendation for therapy on this site. Literally everyone knows it exists, so it's often just a ton of filler comments that add no value to the conversation. But this comment's actually super appropriate, especially since it defines exactly what he needs to work on. It almost sounds like he might struggle with impulse control or something, but there's definitely a lot to unpack here, and a professional could really help him with moving forward, especially since he's showing a lot of remorse and ownership of his mistakes. This is one of those stories that really remind me of the privileged position I'm in. So, to give those of you who may not know exactly, I don't know how you guys found the channel other than from me or Oz, of how I got my start, but I got very lucky. I was working as a gas station cashier, and then my full-time gig on a channel called MK, I was given a opportunity to do that full-time for full-time pay, so I obviously jumped at that opportunity, and I've been very lucky to have this be my career since then. And it's not, the work itself is easy, but there's so much around it that makes it difficult. Of like, if you're not ready to be your own boss and set your own hours, you can burn out quick because you're lacking the discipline of making it a like, okay, I'm working, I'm doing this, I'm going to try and reach out to this person, I'm going to try to reach out to this, company to see if I could, get a partnership or a sponsor or something. There's so much more that goes into creating for a living than just posting, And if this guy just talked to his wife and had the support of his partner, that would have been such a fundamental thing to have. Because it doesn't matter if you're making content for a hobby or making content as a side hustle, or if it's your full-time job. Having that support, having that ride or die, you need that. Because that's encouragement, that's perspective, that's so many different things. And I feel like as a father, he should have done that. I'm not a dad, so maybe I'm talking where I shouldn't. But there's, that kind of bugs me. And there's plenty of people who still work a job and make content on the side. I did that for some time. I think it's something you should do until you're making well above what you'd be getting from a typical job. It's a smart thing to do, that you can't just rely exclusively on a one day this is going to work. Even once you're working full time with content, you don't just rely exclusively on AdSense because you're unreliable. You can't do that. This OP really had a responsibility to tell his partner, hey, I really want to give this a shot, but then still look for work. You could have made it work. It's not going to be easy, but nothing that's worth doing is. I actually think with streaming in particular, there was a video because of the Streaming University stuff that Ludwig posted. I don't know why I'm stuttering so much, but it was a great video, and anyone who's interested in streaming, I recommend checking it out. But it's not an easy thing. The streaming part, playing game, if your idea of the streaming career is I'm just going to play games on stream, you're not doing a career really. It's more than just playing the game. It's a whole, you have to do the whole gamut to make it a full-time job. Next post. Our next story was shared to r/antiwork March 14th, 2026 by user Educated Vegetable and shared to BestOfRedditorUpdates May 25th, 2026 by Direct Caterpillar 77. Notified my work weeks ago I'm leaving for a family vacation in July. Tickets were bought, non-transferable, and they are panicking, begging me to cancel. This whole situation is absurd and I need a sanity check. I work in admin in a niche but important multinational industry. I'm a knowledgeable, reliable cog, and I pick up a lot of slack as we're incredibly short-staffed with plans to add more because it's working out fine for right now. Blah, blah. My boss is going on vacation, and she and I were comparing dates and realized they lined up. She immediately told me I had to cancel. I told her I can't. Things are non-refundable. Since I am a cog, I never considered my manager's schedule. That is not my job. She told me she could deny my PTO, and if I go, I would be released. Great. I go to her boss and say, let's make a plan. They say, okay, great. And I build a schedule for task coverage, including him taking a few hours each day to sit at my desk and doing my in-person job of fielding industry questions or taking their info, and I'd follow up later. And I offer to log in paid for a couple hours every day to help support. He says, cool, I'll present this to the higher-ups. My boss's boss told me that the higher-ups think that he's too important and high-paid to sit at a front admin office for any amount of time. Then the board comes up with a great idea. We'll just offer to reschedule my vacation. They offered a few $100 to cover the scheduling fees. I calculated the fees, and they are way more than a few $100. We're talking thousands. As hotels, travel, transport, everything for 4, I book in advance so I can just relax. We do this because it's not just my life, but my partner's summer schedule with his 2 kids, and their crazy schedules with sports, split custody, their bio mom's vacation plans, a whole thing. They asked me to cancel it and go some other time. I said a firm no. The kids are finally old enough to comfortably travel internationally. They're excited. And I'm not telling them that we can't go because work won't let me. My thing is, I'm a cog. Should I have double-checked everyone's calendar before scheduling? Sure, but I'm not a managing party. I haven't experienced something like this in my entire working life. I have previously notified upper management of my vacation time at the beginning of the year just like this, and they just say, okay, great, thanks for letting us know. Why is my leaving for 7 working days leaving the office in such a panic? There are options to resolve this, like having someone else come from another department for a couple of days here, another couple of days there, and I offered to support remotely. Also, my vacation is scheduled for July. I told you in February. Also, shouldn't this be a reasonable indicator of how short-staffed the department is if 2 people being out for any extended period of time throws a wrench into everything? Did I do something wrong? Is there something I'm not seeing? Any insider advice would be amazing. Edited to add, I am a woman. Relevant comments. User No Albatross 7213 says, it's March? July is 4 months away. They could pull their shit together and figure out a plan. Either this company is imploding or this post is rage bait. OOP responds, unfortunately, this is very real. The company is actually expanding and other 2 personnel have left, but will not be replaced due to cost, and since they left, the department is no longer overstaffed. The president of the company is a tightwad and has successfully run with a skeleton crew for over 2 decades, and is the kind of person that will tell his employees, minions, to make a grand idea happen. If he's questioned or told that won't work because of X, he gets so angry that he's being asked to explain himself or take input from the people around him, it just makes him dig his heels in harder. Luckily, as a cog, I don't have to face the brunt of his ire. But my boss and boss's boss do, which is why my boss got so emotional when this all started. I would leave, but opportunities for this niche industry with my skill set and location are minimal. Also, I'm good at it. OP updates us April 18th, 2026. A month and 4 days later. Interesting update in this saga, OG post linked hopefully, and I need another sanity check. Summary, I notified my workplace in March that I'd be going on vacation in July. Dates overlap with my bosses, who panicked and told me she would deny my leave and it would be job abandonment. Cool. So some time has passed, and upper management is absolutely begging me to reconsider, reschedule, cancel, anything so that I'm here for the time our dates overlap. Overlapping time? 5 work days. They keep telling me they have to consider the needs of the business, and they'll pay for rescheduling fees, in the thousands, and they keep asking me to pull up or answer from my personal calendar to cajole me into rescheduling to come back early to cover some of the time. They keep saying, but you know how busy it gets, look at your metrics. On top of this, we had 2 people leave the department in as many months, and we're being told no additional personnel will be hired. The reason why no one's being hired is because I've absorbed most of the workload, and see, it's fine, we don't need more people. Great. The thing is, I know how busy it gets. That's why I booked a family vacation during the slowest time of the year and told y'all in March that I wouldn't be here. I wasn't asking. I feel like I'm going crazy with 6 people telling me I'm being unreasonable, inflexible, and putting them in a bad position. I even made a temporary schedule for other departments to cover my work for that time. Again, 5 days. And was told that it's not going to be considered because other departments are already short-staffed. It's just really making me feel like all personnel issues are falling onto me. The thing is, I'm looking at the job market right now and it is bleak out there. Recession indicators waving red flags. Sure, I could get a new job, but not at my pay scale or in my field right away. I'm seriously considering making my part of my family trip shorter so I can come back early. Do I hold strong or do I let them bully me into changing my vacation plans so I have job security? Seriously asking because I feel like I'm actually going crazy from the stress. Relevant comments. My Lady Bits says, take your vacation. Say out loud to them if you can't do without me for 7 days, what will you do without me if you fire me? OOP says, I did. They told me I was a valuable employee but ultimately replaceable and should start looking for other work. OP shares a final update May 17th, 2026, about another month later. Final update, hopefully I linked the post correctly. Thanks to all who commented or interacted with me on the previous posts. All comments were read, considered, and offered many perspectives I didn't consider, so thank you. In short, I notified my employer months in advance that I was leaving for vacation. They needed coverage for 5 days, and they told me that if I went, I wouldn't have a job when I returned. Cool. After some reflection and your encouraging comments, I decided to look for another job in the industry I work in. It's pretty niche, so the major players know of or have met with each other. I reached out to a vendor of the company I currently work for, and they immediately offered me a position. Fully remote and at the same pay scale. They said I can start now, later, whenever. They're stoked to have me on the team. They mentioned I have a great reputation, and all of our vendor interactions have been positive. And because they were a vendor, they couldn't approach me, but they were happy that I reached out to them. I'm over the moon. I gave my current position a month's notice, and I'm training my replacement over the next 2 weeks, taking a short break, and then starting my new remote position. And I get to keep my vacation with no hassle. All in all, I'm really happy how this all worked out, and not sure if I would have pursued anything new without my current position treating me so poorly. So honestly, kinda have to thank them for opening my eyes. Final comments. Feel the Force Harry says, how did they react to you leaving? If they can't cover you for 5 days, I would expect them to panic even more over replacing you. OOP responds, they were mostly resigned. Made a counteroffer, but I respectfully declined. They asked if I could stay an additional week, and I also declined, saying that I wanted to establish my routine with my new company, and that I wanted to focus on my growth there. I thank them for everything I've learned while with them, and the opportunity to move on wouldn't have been a possibility without them. Which is true. These last couple weeks have been a mad scramble for them to get a replacement, and frankly they are in for a fun awakening when they realize they're taking on the job of about 3 people. But this workload will be up to management to decide how to allocate. Not my problem anymore. It is crazy to me how OP is basically like that scene in Spider-Man with Tobey Maguire, like holding back the train with the webs against the building. That is this company, this department with this OP. That is what's going on here. Just barely holding the whole thing together. And the way they kind of played with OP, oh no, don't take 5 days off. You're too important, we need you. But if you go, we don't need you that bad. Kick rocks, pal. It was really just like, you gotta do what we say or else you're gone. Like, it was stupid. Like, the whole needs of the company thing just reeks of the upper management being like, we don't see our employees as having time that's valuable outside of what they can offer us. I'm really happy this OP put her foot down and was like, no, my time is valuable. I told you guys ahead of time. I'm taking my vacation. Next post. Our next story was posted to r/relationship advice September 2nd, 2025 by user ThrowRA Bad Vows and shared to Best of Redditor Updates November 15th, 2025 by Lucy Aria Rose. I, 35M, was caught using AI to write wedding vows and partner 34F walked out. What to do? I hardly take little side notes. I just want to mention, when I saw this title, I actually gasped. I don't know what we're in for. It sounds crazy. I, 35M, recently had a wedding with my partner 34F. We've had a stable and happy relationship so far, and I love her more than anything in the world. The problem arose when it came to writing vows. Don't get me wrong, I love many things about my partner, but I couldn't figure out how to put them into tangible vows. I decided to use ChatGPT so I can have something well written and expressive to share at the ceremony. The thing about my partner is that she's very confrontational and no nonsense. If something annoys her, she immediately addresses it with no room for backing out. I also know that she's expressed disdain for AI in the past, but I didn't realize how far the hatred could go. I don't know how, but she immediately recognized that the vows were AI. After I'd finished, she had this angry look and whispered to me, "Did you use fucking AI to write that?" I was quiet because I couldn't believe she'd noticed that, and she was choosing to address it while we were on full display for everyone. She then said that I either speak from the heart or she walks out. I literally couldn't get any words out. She kept her promise and walked back down the aisle, much to all our friends' and family's confusion. She's been ghosting me these past few days, which is atypical for her and honestly giving me panic attacks. Most people agree that calling off a marriage because of AI vows was an overreaction, and that maybe it was a sign that our relationship would have issues, but a few female friends have said they would have done the same. I'm hurt and honestly just needed it to help make the day more special. Is it worth fixing? Edit, same post 10 hours later. Edit, okay, I screwed up. I didn't check this post for a while because I wanted more points of view instead of just getting torn to shreds, but I understand why the situation is worse than I thought it was. I've been trying to contact my partner's family to see if I could talk to her again, but apparently she's been staying out of state with her sister. I'm going to tell her when she gets back what I heard here and that I understand. I'm also going to write new vows without AI and bring her favorite flowers and snacks. I still want her to know that I love her and know her. I'll post an update when I can. Thank you all, even if some feedback could have been tad more nicely put. Some of OOP's comments. Power Word Thrills said, "Did you write this with AI too, bud? Come on, man, you should have been talking from the heart." OOP responds with, "No, I could write this just fine. For the vows, it was different because I wanted them to be perfect, and there was just a lot I wanted to say that I ended up not being able to say anything." Lady Beatnik, editor's note, this user has a long awarded comment. It's too long for this post, but I recommend reading it, which we will be reading here. I don't know why so many men, sometimes women too, but it's usually men, have this belief in the back of their heads that they have this overruling right with their female partner, where they can just ignore or dismiss whatever she wants or prefers as long as he thinks he's got a better idea. Like she's a child and he's the parent who knows better. Every day on these advice subs, dudes come in here like, "She wanted me to buy this specific type of bread, but this other kind was cheaper, so I bought that instead. Why is she mad? She didn't want me to touch her puzzle boxes because she was afraid our kid would lose some pieces, but I thought it would be okay, so I gave him a puzzle. Now some pieces are lost. How do I make her see it's just a stupid puzzle? She has this precious memento from her childhood that I think is weird, and I couldn't take it anymore, so I threw it in the garbage. How do I get her to see it was the right thing? She wanted to buy a very specific dress for our wedding, but I see what I think is a similar dress on Temu for $30 and refused to buy any but that one instead. How can I show her she's being irrational and that I'm saving her money? And now we have you. She told me explicitly multiple times that she hates AI, but I felt like it wasn't a big deal and that I needed it, so I used it anyway for my wedding vows. How can I show her she's overreacting?" You don't, because she's not overreacting. You disrespected her majorly. You're not the victim here. You knew damn well what her reaction to you using AI would be, and did it anyway because, again, you thought you knew better, and that she wouldn't find out anyway. Again, like she's a stupid child, and you're her parent replacing her dead goldfish before she gets home from school. She deserves better than to marry a man who thinks of her that way. She didn't want something that sounded perfect. She wanted something that sounded like you. Stuff like this is precisely why so many people are critical of AI in the first place. It causes people like you to turn human emotional connection into a chore that can be streamlined and replaced by a machine. That's not normal. It's emotionally and spiritually sick, and you need to self-reflect on how you got to this point. OOP responds, I didn't realize she'd be able to tell right away. When I spoke of her disdain for AI, people are making it seem like it was a deal breaker that I simply ignored, which isn't the case. I didn't understand that it meant that much to her, and I definitely won't be making the same careless mistake again. Mr. Magic Man 69 says, the thing is, this is a slippery slope. Once you get AI to do something as important as writing your wedding vows, you'll even more easily be getting AI to reply to your text messages and creating apology messages when you get into arguments which you didn't even write. At which point, she might as well be in a relationship with ChatGPT instead of you. OOP says, this is my first time using it to write text, and this whole situation scared me off it for good. If I can fix things, hopefully I won't fall into a slippery slope. Advice Moist 6152 says, didn't you have an officiant? Ours offer to help us both individually with vows if we wanted, i.e. even just bullet points of what we wanted to say, and they would help with wordsmithing. AI isn't even well written or genuine. This was a major, expensive, public, and preventable incident you caused. And you're not looking for ways to own it and fix it, but for reasons why she's overreacting. OOP says, I actually thought getting help from the officiant would be less authentic. I guess I took an even worse route without realizing. Top comment, editor's note, and some of my favorite replies. Melissa 423771 says, I'm skeptical most people told you that this is an overreaction. Let's see the vows. Pied Goose says, in vain I have struggled. It will not do. My feelings will not be repressed. You must allow me to tell you how ardently I admire and love you. In declaring myself thus, I am fully aware that I'll be going expressly against the wishes of my family, my friends, and, I hardly need add, my own better judgment. Named Human 1 says, I, user, have strong feelings for you, object of affection, such as love, admiration, and other feelings that express how I feel about you. Have I mentioned that the Pro subscription is on offer right now, and ChatGPT 5 is better in most ways? Just remember to delete the last part. OOP shares an update November 9th, 2025, over 2 months later. I honestly wasn't planning to do an update after all because of how humiliating this entire situation has been. I didn't want to give more of a reason for people to rip me apart, but now that my story is posted on a popular YouTube channel, there probably won't be much of an escape route for me. There's no doubt people we know will find it now, so I wanted to give the short update everyone has been itching to get. Editor's note, according to the comments, it was Smosh that reacted to this post. I did what I said previously and told her about the Reddit post and how the replies gave me perspective and that I was sorry. She ended up getting even more angry with me about posting our business, even though our names weren't mentioned, and that she couldn't believe I needed online strangers to tell me why I was wrong. Also, apparently my mom was texting her about paying back all the wasted wedding money, and she used that against me too, which I don't think is fair. I have no control over what my family does. Snacks and flowers didn't do much. She refused to give me another chance even after offering to go to couples counseling. So yeah, the wedding is never happening again. It's over. This has been the most horrendous time in my life. I've thought about giving up altogether. Meanwhile, she's posting about brunch with friends on her social media. Makes me wonder how she could move on that fast while I'm a wreck. People have accused me of not caring about her enough to write my own vows, yet the difference in our reactions to splitting up says the reverse. Hope you're all happy. Feel free to rub salt in the wound. I'm not coming back to this account. Top comments. Cronin09 says, the difference in your reactions just says this was the final straw for her, while you were and still are fucking clueless. Weekly Media 6513 replies, he really doesn't get it. He decided that it wasn't worth his time or effort to write his own vows on his wedding day, so offloaded the subpar task to an AI assistant and is now mad that his fiancée thinks he's a moron. He could say that he wanted them to be perfect all he wants, but the reality is that he couldn't be bothered to make them perfect on his own, yet he wrote both the post and the update just fine. Regular Kahuna says, coming here straight from the video is insane. By the way, OP, this line absolutely took me out. Snacks and flowers didn't do much. Did you actually think it would? You're legitimately telling us that you, at 35 years old, actually thought you could solve the fact that she publicly left you at the altar in the middle of the ceremony by bringing her snacks and flowers. Honestly, that tells me everything I need to know. I bet you didn't even bring her preferred snacks and brought your own favorites. I had more to say, but it's clear you don't have the reading comprehension required for it to matter, so why bother? I can see why you needed AI's help. Kill Foxtrot replied, asked AI what snacks and flowers women prefer most. Utkarsh AF says, dude, paying back all the wasted money and I have no control over what my family does gives me all the information to say this. She dodged a bullet. Dennis Nick says, this made me think the ex-fiance was also dealing with nasty in-laws and a fiance not willing to stand up for her. I literally wrote the same thing about her dodging the bullet because of this on another site where this was posted. I really can't believe he thought going to the officiant for their wedding would make for less authentic wedding vows, so he sourced ChatGPT instead. That is remarkable to me. You don't need them to be perfect, they have to be authentic. You can't get authentic from the AI because that is not you. That is the machine just taking what you're saying and being like, how can I make this? It's like a affirmative thing, you know? It's trying to just be like, is this what you wanted? I did it for you. Or like even just ask your wife, or your fiance, and go to her and be like, hey, honey, you know, it's crazy that I'm saying this, but I don't know how to write down everything I love about you. It's hard for me to write. There's so much. I need help. Like, what are you talking about, man? An officiant is the person to ask any, like, if you're not gonna, you know, at least go to your fiance, the officiant is like the best person to go to. That's their whole thing. They've heard nothing but vows. That's what they do. I have got to know what these vows sounded like. Like, I gotta know. He probably left the M dashes in. Like, it's not just a marriage, it's a bond. It was something, you know what I mean? This guy was an idiot, man. And that's gonna be all for this video, and I hope you all enjoyed. If you did, be sure to leave a like down below and subscribe because I upload 4 times a week, so you don't want to miss a thing. And until next time, my name is DeeLee, and I'll be seeing you